Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Girl of the Future. My name is Amy, and today we have a very amazing guest with us today. Our first ever guest on the show, guys. How brilliant. We finally have gotten our first guest. It is the brilliant Zoe Zanno coming live from EOS Greece, guys. We've got international Euro summer vibes coming all the way over here. Zoe is a culinary branding specialist. Zoe, we had the pleasure of going to university together, which was absolutely
the immense
amazing.
pleasure. Yes.
Yes.
And if anybody knows us, they know that we are the absolute yappers of Yappington University.
Indeed.
So the fact that we are both together doing this right now is really apt.
Exactly, because you know what? I also thought, for my first guest, especially for the topic we're going to do today, I really wanted to focus on culinary. And I thought, if there's one person that knows about culinary, it's going to be Zoe, because Zoe is a dinner party enthusiast. Zoe is somebody that also, dabbles and dabbles in recipe development like myself. So I thought, let's start it off really good with the topic of, can a brand feel like a friend?
Yes.
So yes, and before we get into this, guys, I just want you to know, Zoe has a Substack, and one of the two things we'll be talking about today, Zoe will actually be writing about. So subscribe to this podcast, but also make sure to, head over to the Substack.
Yeah, if you want to, guys.
Yes.
I'll tease it later on.
Indeed. So we're going to kick off with the power of personal branding. So I'm going to be asking Zoe some questions. And the first question is, Zoe, what does personal branding mean to you in 2025?
So for me in 2025, personal branding, okay, so if you just define branding in general, I saw this wonderful post on LinkedIn, who I can't remember the original author of who posted it, but they were talking about branding as obviously the stuff that people see and hear. So that is, how does the brand look and sound, the logo, your color, your fonts, the tone of voice, but the actual brand is what lives in people's minds and hearts, which is how they worded it, which I thought was so wonderful. And I think that personal branding in 2025, in a world where everything is shouting at you at all times, and especially on social media, the oversaturation of advertising and how inauthentic it can feel, I think that personal branding right now really needs the most is authenticity as much as possible.
100%. I think authenticity is something that a lot of brands lose in the pursuit of profit. So I must say I 100% agree with that, because, we don't want to just be sold something. We want somebody to actively talk to us, to engage with us. And that brings me to my next question, Zoe, which is, how do you think we can build trust with brands? How do brands build trust? And maybe you want to talk on your experience with culinary brands, but how do you think a brand builds trust?
I mean, I think in general, the way that a brand builds trust is like, okay, my kind of view of it is now through advertising and social media, because that is like what we consume every day. But how a brand builds trust is to have that personable element like at the forefront of whatever it is they're selling. Because online now we have, you're scrolling through Pinterest and you see this thing, it's actually an ad. And you go onto Instagram and you see this photo and it's actually AI generated. And everything is becoming like so synthetic that when people interact with a brand, what they really want is like to feel as though there's a human being behind this business that I'm supporting, or this product that I'm buying, or this service that I am receiving.
And I mean, honestly, you were talking about AI generated images. I mean, have you seen the Labubus? The Labubus!
Oh my gosh, I actually saw a Labubu today.
Gosh, guys, the Labubus have taken over. The Labubu Dubai chocolate has taken over.
Guys, we need to bring it back to like what is real.
Exactly. No, I mean, the Pinterest, I hate seeing, and I'm sorry, I have to say it, I hate seeing the Shein and Temu ads that just pop up and I click on them thinking it's a pin that I can pin, and then it's like, no, it's an ad and I'm taking you somewhere else.
Yeah, what's been really interesting at the moment being on the island is observing like through fashion what micro trends are trending right now, which is just a side thought about like every day kind of seeing these like different patterns and stuff. But anyways.
No, that sounds interesting. I mean, honestly, yes, South Africans, I feel sometimes we tend to jump on micro trends, but it's always so interesting to know that it's like a universal thing. that
Yeah,
people just use them as
100%.
equipment. But
I mean, it's
yeah,
it's a specific like micro trends. It's the micro trends within the micro trend of like I'm coming to the Greek island like for holiday. Do you know what I mean?
wait, can you know what? Let's put on our trend forecasting hats for a second. So we give us a trend. Tell us what the people are loving. What are the people yearning for?
Okay, right now the people are yearning for nails with like seashells and stuff on them and like these little like ornaments and everything, which honestly I'm so here for. That is like that's very cute and everyone gets so excited about it, and I always see everyone's like holiday nails when they're paying at my work and stuff. I love that. But also one thing that the people are yearning for, which I'm seeing, is there is this like specific Shein bikini that has this like metallic ring in the middle that's like shaped like it's supposed to be like an organic shape kind of thing. And then also on the bottom, like it has this is a very bad explanation for an audio format.
It's
But
fine.
the people do be yearning for those at the
Oh
moment.
my gosh, the white lotusification of Greece, guys. Hear me. Yo, no. It sounds like a fun time. Honestly, I think it's like there's this one dress that I know that everybody was obsessed with one time, like back in 2022, like this cult Gaia dress that has like a round ring in the middle of the dress. And I'm not sure if it's the same type of thing, but it sounds, I need to get into that. I need to see what's going on. But anyways, you know what? We've got another question right now because people love their micro trends, right? But why do you think, Zoe, that people follow brands like they follow creators? And can you give us an example?
Yes, I definitely can. And I think that it goes back to what I was saying before, is that like getting sucked into your phone, into like AI and everything that is like synthetic and AI generated and like, you know, just on your For You page for the purpose of selling you something or selling you some kind of even like narrative and whatever, and how social media uses your personal data anyways, in that kind of realm of things. Like the long story short is that people are being oversold to all the time. You know, and
Exactly.
it's even like crept into this thing of, you know, the get ready with me format, which originally was, you know, something that felt quite organic and whatever, but a lot of brands have now jumped on as a means to, you know, inject their brand and their advertising into your For You page. Like, have you ever gotten on your TikTok a get ready with me and maybe you even start watching it and then you see at the bottom sponsored and you go like,
Yes,
oh,
of
okay.
course. No, and then also, why are there 12-year-olds with Get Ready With Me's? Please go and play with your dolls. I'm scared.
Yeah, but like, you know, then you start watching this Get Ready With Me, like, okay, cute, like, what story is she telling me? And then you see the sponsored at the bottom, oh, okay. But to answer your question, because we are in a digital world where we are being oversold to all the time and the noise is just feeling louder and louder and louder, people want to feel, like I said before, that there's a human behind who they're interacting with.
Yes.
In terms of which brand they're interacting with, but they also want to feel like they are connected to or following some kind of personal story related to whoever that might be, whether it's the business owner or the staff or the cashier at the spa till, you know, that's
Exactly.
doing this like social media post for fun, this employee generated content. Like, people want to feel like there is something real and not fabricated and not, what's the word I'm looking for, curated. You know, when it comes to looking for something to interact with and where to put their money and their time and their loyalty.
And I think, you know what, it's almost like a thing of, we don't follow Zoe because they have a partnership with Babylon Storing. We follow Zoe because Zoe is Zoe. And we know that Zoe's content is coming from a place of, you know, love, but also neutrality. You can trust Zoe's opinion. And obviously, Zoe, I'm manifesting a Babylon Storing sponsorship for you, inshallah. But I genuinely think that you are so correct in that, because people don't want to be sold an ad in a human package. They don't want that. They want an actual person who actually lives the product, or at least uses it
Yes.
enough to have an honest opinion about it.
And the
And I
thing is,
think-
as
yeah.
well, is that like people can smell authenticity from a mile of inauthenticity from a mile away. And so this beautiful post that I saw on LinkedIn that spoke about the brand being what lives in people's minds and hearts, you want that feeling. The brand is the feeling that you leave people with, and you want that feeling to come from a place of authenticity as deeply as possible, because if it's not authentic, people can sense that.
Exactly. And I mean, now we can kind of get into, like, how do you feel about kind of, okay, so obviously Gen Z, we kind of build brands around ourselves. We are being known as the personal branding generation, the generation that has kicked off being a personal brand. How do you feel about founders that are the face of their brands? I'm talking about, like, you know, Hailey Bieber, Rode Beauty, or just any brand that, you know, has a person in front of it as the face, and kind of that the products kind of revolve around. How do you feel about that? And do you think it's really cool?
Like, how do I feel about that in a sense that do I feel that it's effective?
Indeed, yes.
I think that it's quite a broad like scope of this kind of thing, right? You can have your Road Beauty and your Hailey Bieber, which obviously is contextually different because she's a celebrity. So, her influencer status in how she's marketing her products works a little bit differently. But I think that if we are taking it back to the local business and the local bakery or the local restaurant owner who is like, quote unquote, kind of vlogging their, process and open up this business with me and these are my wins and losses as a business owner kind of thing. Basically just giving us a story to follow. I think that it is really effective. And one brand that comes to mind when I'm talking about this is, I've followed Switch Beauty for a long time now, which for those listening is a local South African beauty brand. And I have really admired how she's kind of stayed true to her narrative and her story throughout the growth and the massive explosion of her brand, which makes me so happy. And it still feels like when I look at the Instagram of Switch Beauty, it still feels like she is speaking to me as the consumer from someone who is the business owner. I still feel that personal element there, even though the brand has now gotten bigger and bigger.
Yes, did you see that beautiful coffee pop-up thing that they had the other day?
Oh my goodness, and I'm not even in the country for that.
I know.
I was obsessed with that.
Oh, I remember you were talking about it when we did our first recording. And yes, guys, we did do our first recording of this initially. And I know that Zoe mentioned Switch. And then afterwards, I see this beautiful pop-up. They had like a whole cafe. And I really just thought like, man, why didn't I get myself there? It looked so good. And everybody was there for some reason. I loved it.
Yes, and the first episode that we recorded actually glitched. So I think that it was all like a beautiful synchronicity of the universe because now this Switch pop-up has happened and we're referencing it. So
exactly.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that.
Thank you. And now, you know what? Can we even say this now? This is our just kind of like an additional question I have for you. But is personal branding even optional anymore if you want to stand out? Is it something that you have to consider, or do you just kind of go about your day, just selling your product? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's hard, because now this process of people kind of becoming the influencer, quote unquote, and the face behind their brand is something that's happening more and more. So I think that it's harder to step away from that or not involve yourself in doing that kind of thing on social media and still stand out. I definitely don't think it's impossible at all. But I think that making yourself the face of your brand and including that personal element in whatever product or service you offer is like, it's definitely a benefit because, like I said, it feels like me as the consumer, I'm interacting with you.
Exactly.
And I think it's funny, like I don't know if you've seen that meme where it's like me when I'm a small business owner and now I have to become an influencer and it's like someone setting up the tripod and stuff like that. And
not the tripod and the ring light. Oh my God. Oh, please.
Yeah, it's definitely a truism for small businesses at the moment. I think that it's you can definitely stand out without doing that, but it gives you a great advantage in other ways if you can tell your story simply and well.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's just something that, like, once again, like you said, the small businesses, they're feeling the pressure right now. But at the end of the day, at the best of times, this is kind of how Gen Z connects with our brands. So let's just get into that part of it. How do you feel about emotional connection through storytelling? If you could give the audience advice on how they could best connect with their viewers, how would you do it? How would you, give them some tips on storytelling?
It's all about knowing kind of, first of all, your target audience, why you're trying to target them and what the end goal is through that targeting and just applying an authentic take on that, I think. Just to give a little bit of kind of pretext of the brands that we're speaking about, in the rest of this episode, but if I had to use, for example, Nice to Matcha, in my answer to you, I would say that they emotionally connect really well with their audience because they have taken us step by step through kind of the beginnings the very, very beginnings of Nice to Matcha and made us feel like we are a part of the building and the opening and the whole way through up until the actual store is open and people are coming in and buying. And even with the actual products that they're selling, you know, writing your name and the little quote on the plastic cup that you get your matcha in is so genius. It's so clever. And so I think that it's just finding the sweet spot between, you know, what is your story, where is your consumer and how they would like to receive or interact with that story, and then how does it all marry together with the product or your brand or your service.
That's brilliantly said. I think, guys, take notes. Zoe's talking. And I mean, let's get into, you know, you're talking about the writings on the cup. Zoe, how do you tell when it's human voice or corporate speak, okay? Like, how do you know when a brand is really trying to pull the wool over people's eyes and act like they are talking like a human, but actually it's just corporate speak?
I think that it's getting easier and easier to pick up nowadays, especially if you're a Gen Z consumer, because of Gen Z's online habits in terms of like just even your doom scroll or on social media, how, you know, people spend their free time and stuff like that. It's kind of getting a little bit easier to spot AI, but it's also getting a little bit easier to, it's easy, I think, in the culture of memes and like how fast everything goes, to tell when something was like, oh, okay, maybe there was this like meme going on, and then like 3 weeks later, someone at corporate approved this Instagram caption, which is like, you know, so demure and mindful, like kind of thing.
Okay, and I mean, we can even talk about the debate of the M dash, the big long dash that ChatGPT is prolific for using, and how it's making some people that, you know, maybe were using the M dashes normally seem like they're using AI. And I saw that was kind of discourse online with people being like, how do you know if it's AI? What if I just like using, you know, M dashes? What if I know how to write properly? And I mean, that even also just is like what you're saying. It's just getting so much easier to spot AI. But then you obviously get some people that just happen to write the way that they write. And now onto another question. You were talking about memes. Zoe, how do you feel about memes? How do you feel about branding? You know, businesses using memes. When does it go too far? And when can it feel a little bit like chaos and kind of like oversharing in a way?
Before I answer, I would like to pose that question to you. I would like to hear your answer to this question, because something definitely comes to mind for me, but I'm curious to know how you interpret that.
Okay, well, to be fair, right? Memes, funny, great. Cool. Some brands, meme culture is a part of their culture. Okay, Duolingo, fantastic example. They are always on the money with memes. Those people are always on the money. They have an intern,
100%.
a Gen Z intern that is there. They are educated, they are employed, they are on the clock every single day, 24 hours a day, coming up with very funny videos. And I think because it's a part of their branding and they've always been known to be funny, it works. So for me at least, I feel that's a brand that really does it well. However, you get some brands and I'm just like, I know that somebody in a boardroom just told you to post this. I know that some Gen Z intern just said this would be cool. It's not working. It looks inauthentic.
Yeah, I get you. I think like in terms of memes, it's really also largely about timing and when it's posted and how it's done, I think is a big part of it. But I think that like if you are speaking about connecting with a Gen Z audience as a brand, I think that memes are a really effective way to do it. And it also does bring a little bit more of the human element in. And one brand that comes to mind that has absolutely like killed it for me, and completely, just speaking as myself, you know, shifted the way that I think about them, is Engine. If you look on the Engine's Instagram, I mean, like, it is just so cool how they have implemented memes into their marketing and kind of sold Engine as this like cool spot that you want to be as a Gen Z South African, getting your pie with these like South African colloquial, you know, not even just memes, like specifically, you know, with language that we are using every day as South Africans, in a way that doesn't feel forced and that feels real, and that feels like, you know, something I would hear at the Engine or say at the Engine or experience at the Engine. And them taking the garage pie and memifying that is like, it's awesome. It's so cool. So I think that if it's done well, absolutely, it can completely, you know, put your brand in a wonderful light.
Yeah, I think who doesn't want a garage pie engine now, because they constantly are putting reference to things that are so authentically South African and so authentically Gen Z. And I love seeing the comment section just kind of always being young people. And I think this can bring us, onto our next segment, which is, the two brands we've decided to talk about. So just a little bit of a breakdown here. But Zoe is going to be talking about these brands in more depth from a more culinary branding perspective. So I will let them do their job best. But I think Zoe is going to give us a little bit of a breakdown on each brand, and then we're going to kind of talk about why these brands feel approachable, and do we feel like these brands are branding themselves like influencers. So yeah, Zoe, do you want to take us through Brash and Nice to Matcha?
Let me take you through Brash and Nice to Matcha, okay? If you're a Cape Townian listening to this episode, no explanation needed whatsoever. If I even said to you, smashburger and matcha in Cape Town, I think that the brand associations are so strong that both of these names would come to mind like almost straight away, which is just my point of view. But for those who aren't familiar, Brash is one of Cape Town's most popular smash burger joints at the moment, as is Nice to Matcha, one of Cape Town's most popular matcha spots at the moment. And both of them we have decided to speak about or touch on in this podcast because they have both done such a great job on their socials at telling the story and keeping the narrative of who they are authentic and real and easy to follow in real time as well. So if you want to break down for us, Amy, why you think Brash and Nice to Matcha, these two examples that we have for the people today, why, in your opinion, do they feel approachable in how they've marketed themselves?
Okay, first of all, I just want to say they're both in Sea Point Main Road. So as somebody that drives in Sea Point Main Road too many times to count, it's so nice when you're like, oh, matcha, but then you're like, oh, wait, there's Brash Burger. Yeah, no, seriously. Why do these brands feel approachable? Because they build a lifestyle around their brand. Okay, first of all, I'm just going to say about Brash. I love their milkshakes, okay? Brash, if you're hearing this right now, I love your vanilla milkshake. It's fantastic. And Nice to Matcha, you've got a beautiful aesthetic, and your matcha it's amazing. Anyways, the reason why is because, there's a quote kind of that I was thinking of when I was busy writing script was, Brash talks like the butch you went to uni with, while Nice to Matcha sounds like a wellness girly influencer who loves walks on the prom or the promenade for those that don't know what the prom is. And I feel like that, that of course is a generalization, but I think it speaks more to just the lifestyle that Brash is like around. I mean, the place is always bursting with people, okay? There are always people, both of these places. There's always queues of people. There's always people outside, inside, talking, laughing, and it makes you want to come to these places. You kind of look then you're like, what am I missing out on? These brands feel so approachable. It feels like if I go there right now, beyond its beautiful aesthetics, I'm probably pretty gonna have a good time. Like it's pretty much gonna be an experience that I'm gonna enjoy.
So you feel like the in-person vibe of both of these places feels already like a friendly atmosphere, right?
Yes, because hello, I'm seeing like flipping 20 people outside looking like they're having the best time of their life. I want to come and join this because it looks like something that I want to buy into. They said a place that kind of is empty is often a place that psychologically we feel is maybe not a good place, because when something is empty, it's kind of like, why is it empty? Why are people not going? But this is just like two places that I always, whenever I go, no matter when I go, there's always just like a lot of people, and it makes me feel that they are approachable, and it's giving me the vibe of come here.
Well, what I was going to say is like, all of these people are coming to Brash and to Nice to Matcha to get their burger and to get their matcha because they feel like friends of the brand, which is just my personal take on this. And I also want to just preface this for those listening. Even though I live in Cape Town, I'm currently not in the country. I have never had a matcha at Nice to Matcha, and I have never had a burger at Brash. But both of these brand stories and just branding in general from both of these places they both have such strong associations for me that it's left a lasting impression. And even for me, as someone who's never consumed a smashburger or a matcha, there are still the first two places that I think of when you mention both of those things, which I just think is the power in...
Exactly. We need to make a GoFundMe, guys, so that we can please get that stuff to Greece. Thank you very much, everybody. And if the brands are listening to this, please give my amazing friend a smash burger and a matcha, I beg.
Don't you worry, it's the first places that I'm going to come to when I'm back in the city.
Just shows how good the branding is, guys.
So if we can use social media as the example for why these places have made themselves feel like friends to their consumers, is just number one, we can say for both of these places, Brash and Nice to Matcha, both of these establishments have told their stories so well, which is the overarching thing for me in why it works so wonderfully. And in doing that for both of them, they have always held an authenticity and a very down-to-earth kind of tonality in how they tell their story throughout, always, which I think is wonderful. And whether it's, in how the captions are written or this vlog style of, the process of building the place, running the place, etc. Even Brash has made these kind of short video, you couldn't call them advertisements, but just these short fun videos that are just that, like fun. Like put across the tone of the brand so wonderfully in a way that doesn't feel like an advert. It just feels like something fun that they've made just for Brash, which I think is awesome. So if I had to sum it up, what I'm saying is that the social media of both of these establishments in Cape Town, they have awesome storytelling. It's always authentic. You feel like you're speaking to a friend, and there is always, that behind the product there is always a person, and a person speaking from their heart about the product.
Exactly. I think, I mean, the fact that you can speak on these brands without even being in South Africa, without even have tasted their product, says a lot about how good and how authentic the branding is. Because I think, as us that work in branding, we are always on the lookout for a brand that is willing to do something different, but also to do something that is authentically them. And I think that really just kind of speaks to that. And I think you've also just touched on that question very well of, are they branding themselves like influencers? And you've talked about the vlog style and how they're ads, but they don't feel like ads. So I think, now that we've talked about the really good stuff, let's talk about some risks. Let's talk about some things that maybe aren't that great. Like, what is the line, Zoe, that you think between authentic and forced? What do you think, besides ads not feeling like ads, when do you look at a brand and you think, okay, wait a minute, this maybe doesn't feel like you, this feels like somebody told you to do this?
I think the line between authentic and forced is really just that. There's the scale of authenticity and the scale of, okay, this is forced. I really think that it's quite simple. And authenticity always comes back to, are you in alignment with your brand and your product or whatever you are promoting? And are you in alignment with your target audience and what kind of feeling you want to evoke in them? So as soon as that alignment becomes misaligned or things start to slip there, or perhaps the focus from the brand is a little bit too much on, let's say product versus feeling in the story that they're communicating. That's a very simplified way of putting it. Or, they are trying something new that happens to misalign with their audience and the specific feeling that they are used to having evoked. I think that that's where things can start to feel forced. I really think that it's quite simple. If you have your story, your roots, and you veer away from that in a way that's quite drastic, or, you change something quite quickly about the way you are communicating or how you are telling your story, I think that it can feel forced, whether it's, for the sake of a trend or whatnot. But I think that authenticity, the answer is always simple and the answer is always there, which is remind yourself, as a brand owner, why you started this brand.
Exactly.
Remind yourself about the love that you have for your product, for your establishment, and at the core of it, know what feeling you want to evoke in people when you are advertising your place or your product, to entice people, hey, come here, or buy my thing, whatever it may be.
And Zoe's a very great short form content creator on mostly TikTok and Instagram. And I think you've really gotten such good points out. But I've got a question for you. You specialize in a lot of, short form content and long form as well with your Substack. But do you think that these brands can get burnout from always being on? And, when does their relatability become a performance, in your opinion?
Look, I think that social media is always a performance to whatever extent. No matter if it's a photo dump or what you would call a shit post or something chaotic in that manner. Social media, if we're speaking specifically about social media, is always a curation of how you want people to associate with you or with your brand. So I think that if you are simply coming from the perspective of a brand owner, vlogging the everyday, vlogging the process of how you started this thing, taking a look into your staff team and how awesome they are, and all of these different parts in your journey, I think that there's always a limit in what you decide you'd like to share. So perhaps for some people, there's a little bit of burnout being on. Perhaps there's quite a bit of pressure. being felt in terms of like, oh, I have to be the influencer behind my brand now. But I think that it's a balance that perhaps one learns over time.
Exactly. And I mean, like, now we're going to get into a little bit of a question, right, about Gen Z. And I think as two Gen Z content creators.
Gen Zers.
Yeah, Gen Zers, or what do they call us? Zoomers? Yeah, I don't know. How I
No,
feel
no,
about
no, we are
Zoomers,
not
yeah.
Zoomers. I think Zoomers are younger than us.
Yeah, whatever we call. Anyways, the question is, and I think the first time we recorded this, we had very interesting perspectives on both. Do we expect, as Gen Z and as consumers in general, do we expect too much from brands now? How are we feeling about that? You can go first, Zoe. I'll go after you.
Okay, do we expect too much from brands now in terms of advertising? Or do we expect too much from brands in terms of, how relatable can I find you? Is that what you're asking?
Indeed.
I think that the answer is no. I don't think that we are expecting too much from brands nowadays in terms of if what we are wanting as consumers is authenticity and to feel like we're interacting with something real and someone who cares about us as people, this parasocialism, if you can call it that. I don't think that is a large expectation from brands now because, like we've been saying throughout, in a world where everything nowadays is feeling synthetic and you are looking out for AI and you read something beautiful and then you think, okay, well, did a human being write this? And you've got all of these questions in your mind about like how real and tangible is this actual thing, that I'm seeing on social media or that I'm seeing advertised to me. They're more and more in people's like purchasing behaviors and I think in many people's lifestyles, people just want to revert back to what is real,
Yes.
And so I think that it's the responsibility of the brand, which is easier as a small brand, to remind consumers like, hey, there's real people behind this. That's why I love so much that Brash on their social media and even Nice to Matcha as well, but Brash comes to mind where on their Instagram, obviously they are advertising their burgers and they're advertising their place and, if they're doing a pop-up, where is that going to be, etc. But what I love so much from Brash is the focus that they've put on their staff. And one post in particular that comes to mind on their Instagram is this beautifully photographed shot of their staff team and a really simple caption which says, closed on 5 p.m. for staff party, which I think is so awesome.
Love that.
Like, I have not ever seen that kind of thing from a brand before, ever. And that's actually what got my follow on social media. And obviously, like I said, I'm out of the country, but now, cool, I feel like a smashburger. I think I know where I'm going because I know that, like, okay, this brand cares about the people that work for them and there's a realness in that. And so to want that from other brands, I don't think is a big expectation at all. Perhaps to expect every brand owner to influence or to be an influencer is a big ask, It's not like we need a daily vlog or something like that. But coming back to, can a brand feel like a friend? And to be friendly requires authenticity. And if we are expecting that, then I think that it's reasonable.
And I think that is, I must say, I agree. Because you know what? At the best of times, brands owe it to their consumers to be authentic, to show themselves. Because if we're going to be sold something, heck, we might as well get it sold to us in the most authentic and the most transparent way as possible. And
Exactly.
I think, there obviously is that, that question of, is there going to be, fatigue? I mean, we often in the trend forecasting space kind of talk about trend fatigue and how consumers are kind of always looking for more, and they can't focus. But at the core of it all, it's just that consumers are constantly surrounded by noise and they just want something that breaks through that. And I think, let's get into a takeaway. What have we learned from this? So I think for me, I'll just start off by saying that the one thing that I've learned particularly is that authenticity will do more for you than any form of, gimmick or any form of trend. If you're authentically yourself, you create your own trends. And I mean, Zoe, can you give us one of your takeaways of what you've taken from this conversation?
I think one of my takeaways from this conversation, and using both of our case studies as examples, is that to advertise yourself on social media as a brand that is authentic and to tell a story nicely and everything that comes with branding yourself as a friendly brand. I think it's incredibly simple. Both of our case studies have proven to us that it really is not a complicated formula. It's not complicated to just keep it simple, say, hey, this is who we are. We have this love for our product, this love for what we do, this love for our people and for you, our consumers who love our product. and let's just keep that vibe. And as the brand grows and grows and gets bigger and bigger, and the owner of Nice to Matcha is flying to Japan to go and get more matcha and experience this like international thing, as all of these exciting things will happen, the core stays the same, which is that we're still who we were from the beginning, and we still have this authentic love for you, the consumer, and for what we're doing here, which is so present in everything. It doesn't require, you don't need a film crew, or some
Exactly.
extensively perfect, whatever, Instagram kind of thing. You can tell the story well, tell it authentically, connect with people, and that feeling is what matters, because like I mentioned in the beginning from the LinkedIn post that I read, is that your brand is what lives in people's minds and hearts.
Exactly.
And to achieve that in 2025, the most important thing that people are wanting and yearning for is the authenticity in that.
Exactly. And I mean, let's kind of end this off with a question. A quick fire question. First thing that comes to mind, first brand that comes to mind for you, Zoe. What brand feels like a friend to you? I'll go after you. How are you feeling about this?
For me, if I had to keep it in a local Cape Townian context, my easy answer is Bully Boy. I am a big fan of Bully Boy's advertising, their product, and how they build their brand world, for me, is expertly done. It's so cool, and it feels effortless, and it feels like, if you've met the owner of Bully Boy, you'll know he embodies everything that his brand kind of advertises on social media, and the vibe and the essence of everything. And I think that it's incredible all round. So that's my quick fire answer, is for me it's Bully Boy.
Yeah, I actually went to Shred Skate Park today and I got a Bully Boy sticker and I told Zoe about it and I was like, oh my god, I finally got that brand that you were talking about to me. Yeah, I finally got them. And I think that's so cool. The stickers were fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, and I also love their gorilla all around town, the graffiti, and like how it gets intense, like more and more about where they're putting it and their signage. And I don't know if you've seen like the posters stuck up or the like spray painted promo around town. If you're living in Cape Town, it's everywhere, but it feels really real because he knows like what the core of his brand world is and where the people are, that Bully Boy is speaking to. And I think it's beautiful. It's awesome. I love Bully Boy.
And honestly, you know what? Hi, Bully Boy, if you're listening to this, hello, hi. We like your brand and we think it's cool. I think the brand that feels like a friend to me, and listen, I know, okay, I've been accused by a few people for being on Lush's payroll. Guys, I promise you I'm not. I'm just a big fan of the brand. That is a brand that feels like a friend to me. Whenever I go into Lush, first of all, it smells great. But second of all, I just overall love their products and I love their brand tone of voice. Even when I get a newsletter from them, I'm always so excited because they talk in a way that is both professional, but at the same time, it kind of feels like it's your friend that wrote you an email and they were like, hey dude, did you know that I came up with this new like honey body wash? Like, it's pretty cool. And I just like it when, brands have stuck with that for so many years. So obviously Lush is a legacy brand. It's a brand that's been around forever. And even though it's not a local brand, I somehow still feel that, it feels local enough. Like the place is just bright, it's fresh, but it's not like overdone. It's like really just nice. So I think for me, Lush is just, I don't know, I love it. It's cute.
I have to say, like, for a big global scale brand like Lush to still have a friendly feeling to it, because I also agree with what you're saying. I also feel this friendly vibe from Lush and how they position themselves, and I think it's really cool that a big brand like that can still make you feel or think that way about them.
Personal anecdote, but Zoe and I remember when we were in university, we went to Lush and I know Zoe bought a body spray. I think it was like Twilight or something. I'll never forget it.
I can't even remember.
Exactly. I think it was like first year or like second year. I remember we bought something in Lush and that was like a core, we've had many core memories in our friendship, but that one I remember, and like honestly, I'm just trying to tie it to the brand.
Honestly, Amy is like a 2015 nostalgia queen, and so it also completely makes sense that Amy loves Lush so much.
Yes.
That
yes.
What was that trending bath bomb from Lush ages ago, that pink? Do you know which one I'm talking about? That pink, like swirly one. I almost want to say it was like it had like sparkles in it or something like that.
Yeah, like not intergalactic. That's a blue one. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like a rose or
yes. It was the rose. Yes, it was the rose. And like 2015, 2016, everybody had that bath bomb on their Instagram.
No, I mean, as somebody that comes from a small town where there was no Lush, okay, I owe it to my 13-year-old self when I first went to a Lush 10 years ago when I was 13. I remember being in awe of just the entire vibe. And now, to this day, I still have told myself that once I got big people money, I was going to buy Lush. And I mean, I kind of did. So, you know what? My 13-year-old self would be happy with me right now. And yes, thank you, Zoe. That's one of the highest compliments I've ever gotten, to be called a 2015.
Yeah. Alexa,
girly.
play Badlands by Halsey.
Yes, please. Happy 10 years to guys. Okay, this is a segment for the Tumblr individuals. Okay, let me just tell you some albums that are like having their 10-year anniversary. Okay, we've got Badlands by Halsey. We've got Cry Baby by Melanie
I
Martinez.
literally know that I could see the picture of all the album covers that you are about to say right now.
Exactly. Fruit, Marina and the Diamonds, or known as Marina right now. We've got
21 Pilots,
yes,
Blurry Face, I think.
indeed. What else? Lana Del Rey, Honeymoon. Okay,
Come
guys.
on, you can't be forgetting the one that I'm thinking of.
Oh my God, I think I'm Troye Sivan, Blue Neighborhood. Oh my
Thank
God.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Gosh, that is the best album I've ever listened to in my entire life. Like, I've listened to many, but that album, oh my word, Zoe and I, you know, when we first met, we started talking in depth about Blue Neighborhood and the impact that it had. Tumblr is a completely different situation. You can maybe tell us one of your favorite brands. We would love to know because we are always excited. Make sure to subscribe to this on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening. I have a Substack, but oh gosh, I need to learn how to use it. However, if you want to read a Substack that actually is active and actually really good, I would suggest you look at Zoe Zanno. Okay? Mouthful is out, guys. Mouthful is out.
Mouthful is out, and thank you so much to my host, the girl of the future, Amy Gaja, for having me on the podcast.
It is a pleasure,
The A
my
to Z
friend.
episode.
Yes, A to Z, guys. You see, this is an advertising genius we have in our presence right now, guys. Branding genius.
It's
But
just
anyways,
the
listen.
symbiosis of our friendship, but yes.
Indeed.
You can read my Substack if you want to. I also have a TikTok and Instagram, and if you are a brand or someone who's listening, I do specialize in culinary branding as well. So there's that too.
Clock it. Clock it. Anyways, y'all.
Clock it on period.
That was Zoe. That was Amy. And see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.